Good day. You are looking live at Site 1, Gagarin's launch pad at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in the Central Asian Desert in Kazakhstan. Fully fueled, a Soyuz booster ready to launch just 21 and a half minutes from now to carry the next Progress resupply ship, an unpiloted Russian Progress cargo ship, on a two-day journey to the International Space Station. Good day and welcome to our coverage of the launch of the Progress 65 craft. As we said, the Progress vehicle is atop that Soyuz booster, which was fueled a few hours ago. The weather in Baikonur is fairly crisp, temperatures around the freezing mark, cloudy skies, but the countdown is proceeding for liftoff less than 21 minutes from now to send the Soyuz booster, its three stages, and the Progress resupply ship on an 8-minute, 46-second voyage to reach its preliminary orbit and to begin a two-day journey with docking to the aft port of the space station's Zvezda service module scheduled for 10:43 a.m. Central Time on Saturday morning. Here at the Johnson Space Center in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers is on console at this hour. They are overseeing the activities of the Expedition 50 crew on board the orbital outpost. They took a handover about an hour ago from the overnight shift, the Orbit 1 shift, and now continue to execute and are communicating with the crew on orbit when required. Leading the Orbit 2 team at this hour, on the right side of your screen, is Flight Director Jeff Radigan. He is joined on console by astronaut Jessica Meir, who will be talking when necessary to Station Commander Shane Kimbrough and the rest of his Expedition 50 crewmates throughout the course of the day. Across the ocean at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow, Russian flight controllers are monitoring the progress of this countdown for the 65 Progress launch less than 20 minutes from now. They will assume control of all of the activities of the Progress's path to the International Space Station once it reaches orbit after third stage shutdown and spacecraft separation from the third stage of the Soyuz booster. We were just in the Baikonur area at the Cosmodrome just 2 weeks ago for the launch of Peggy Whitson, Thomas Pesquet, and Oleg Novitsky, who rounded out the Expedition 50 crew. And so once again, a vehicle on the launch pad at Baikonur ready to go, ready to begin a journey to the International Space Station and its supply run to deliver some 2.6 tons of food, fuel, and supplies to the crew members on board the International Space Station. The journey of the Progress actually began out of its integration building, the Building 112 integration facility at 7 a.m. Baikonur time on Tuesday morning. The Progress, as our manned Soyuz vehicles, was hauled horizontally on a railroad car some 2.5 miles from the integration building to the launch pad, arriving at the launch pad at about 9 a.m. Baikonur time, where it then was rotated hydraulically into a vertical position and the launch table slightly rotated to match the azimuth of the Progress's 51.6 degree inclination for its launch to the International Space Station. The gantry arms then closed around the Progress vehicle and the Soyuz booster, enabling launch pad technicians to begin the process of hooking up fuel lines and power lines and to begin two days of integrated testing leading up to this point where we're in the final minutes of the countdown leading to the launch of the Progress to the International Space Station. The International Space Station is currently flying 252 statute miles above the Earth, passing over southern Argentina, about to begin a southwest to northeasterly course across the South Atlantic. in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. At the time of launch, about 16.5 minutes from now, the station will still be over the South Atlantic, just to the west of Angola, off of the west coast of Africa. On board the International Space Station, the 6 crew members comprising the Expedition 50 crew, led by NASA and ISS Commander Shane Kimbrough, along with Peggy Whitson, Oleg Novitsky, Thomas Pesquet of the European Space Agency, along with Russian cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Andrei Borisenko, have continued their program of research and maintenance work with their usual brand of effervescence today. They're in the second half of their workday, and once the Progress reaches orbit, the Russian cosmonauts on board, Novitsky, Ryzhikov, and Borisenko, will begin preparations for the Progress's arrival and its automated docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module on Saturday morning. As we mentioned a moment ago, the Progress is carrying some 2.6 tons of cargo to the International Space Station. Broken down, that will be 1,433 pounds of propellant, 112 pounds of oxygen, 926 pounds of water, and 2,755 pounds of dry cargo in the form of spare parts and supplies for the Expedition 50 crew. The launch of the Progress 65 cargo craft just 15 minutes from now comes on the heels of the deorbiting of the orbital ATK Cygnus cargo craft that occurred this past Sunday after its delivery run to the International Space Station. And just 8 days from now, December 9th, will find the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, launching its H-2B rocket, its workhorse rocket, from the Tanegashima Space Center in southern Japan to send the HTV, or H-2 Transfer Vehicle number 6, the Kanotori vehicle, the name for White Stork, to the International Space Station. It is scheduled to launch at 7:26 a.m. Central Time, 8:26 a.m. Eastern Time, 10:26 p.m. in Japan on Friday, December 9th, on a 4-day journey. It takes 4 days for the HTV to rendezvous to the International Space Station, where it will arrive on December 13th for its grapple, its capture, and berthing to the Earth-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station. It will be loaded with more than 4.5 tons of supplies, including a new set of batteries for the station's power supply for the 3A and 1A power channels on the S-4 truss of the International Space Station that will be installed through a blend of robotics and a pair of spacewalks that are scheduled in the month of January by Expedition 50 crew members. But the task at hand for the moment is the launch of 65 Progress to get it into orbit and to get it to the International Space Station on Saturday, with the launch scheduled just 13 minutes and 35 seconds from now. Launch time is scheduled at 8:51 and 52 seconds a.m. Central Time, which is 8:51 and 52 seconds p.m. in Baikonur, which is the time at which the Earth's rotation will bring the Baikonur Cosmodrome's launch pad into the plane of the station's orbit. The Progress will be on its way to begin its 2-day chase to catch up to and automatically dock to the aft port of the station's Zvezda module. Once the Progress lifts off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the 3 stages of the Soyuz booster will incrementally lift the Soyuz booster and the Progress resupply craft to its preliminary orbit. The first stage performance will run about 1 minute and 58 seconds before the strap-on boosters and the first stage engine shuts down and separates. Then that will be followed by the shroud jettison, which is enclosing the Progress from the low Earth orbit environment. The second stage shutdown and jettison will occur at about the 4-minute 47-second mark. And then third stage ignition follows for another 3 minutes and 45 seconds of third stage performance before its engine shuts down and spacecraft separation will occur. Just seconds after that takes place, the Soyuz will begin, or the Progress vehicle rather, will begin the automated process of deploying its twin solar arrays and its navigational antennas, and will begin a pre-programmed series of rendezvous burns, 2 engine burns scheduled later today, a third burn scheduled on Friday. That will be followed by the initiation of an automated rendezvous capability in the early morning hours on Saturday, some 3 hours before it arrives in the vicinity of the International Space Station for its typical fly-around, station keeping, and final approach for an automated docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module. This is the third Progress to be launched this calendar year by Roscosmos, the Russian Federal Space Agency. And once the 65 Progress vehicle arrives at the station, it will mark 4 Russian vehicles docked to various ports at the station, 2 Progress vehicles and 2 Soyuz vehicles that brought the 6 crew members up to the International Space Station. Shane Kimbrough, Andrei Borisenko, and Sergei Ryzhikov arriving in October. And then just 2 weeks ago, Peggy Whitson, Thomas Pesquet, and Oleg Novitsky arriving to join them to round out the Expedition 50 crew. We are now just 10 minutes away from launch. The countdown proceeds on schedule at Baikonur. Just a couple of minutes from now, we'll start to receive a series of commands issued by the blockhouse in Baikonur to begin an automated series of events that will culminate about 31 seconds before launch with the first of 2 umbilicals buttressed up against the Soyuz booster retracting. That will be followed about 18 seconds later at the T-minus 12-second mark by the second of the 2 umbilicals retracting, and then the automated engine sequence start will be initiated. The engines will come up to flight speed, the turbo pumps will come up to flight speed, the hold-down arms will be retracted, and the Soyuz booster and the Progress resupply ship will be on their way. Once again, as the countdown proceeds toward launch, we're looking at a live picture from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. This is the same launch pad from which Yuri Gagarin lifted off 55.5 years ago to begin humanity's journey away from the planet. Today occupied by the Soyuz booster and the Progress 65 cargo craft set to begin an 8-minute, 46-second journey to its preliminary orbit.
Go ahead, Tomas.
Just to let you know, I think before this noise, the task has been completed. The coverage is fantastic.
Okay, fantastic. Excellent.
Hey Thomas, good to hear you. We didn't want to interrupt what you were doing. We just still owed you a call. So you were asking if you could work ahead on any of the Mars activities, and as of now, you are go for your remaining Mars activity. So we've completed the shutdown. Should be powered off, so you can go whenever you want. You can do it per timeline. You can do it later. We still owed you that call.
Appreciate you guys being shown this, so go ahead
This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, you are looking at the fully fueled Soyuz booster. Atop it is the Progress 65 cargo craft loaded with more than 2.5 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 50 crew. The countdown proceeding to launch less than 6.5 minutes from now.
At 14:45, we activated PPK, and 1212 EDV was removed, and the remaining water was about 200 or 300 grams. Thanks, Andrei. We copy. You're welcome.
At Baikonur, the report is that the launch key has been inserted by the technicians in the blockhouse. This initiates the transition of the final minutes of the countdown to an automatic mode. In the blockhouse at Baikonur, strip chart recorders have been activated in the Launch Control Center to capture telemetry from the launch vehicle from this point until it completes its job 8 minutes and 46 seconds after launch. Four and a half minutes until launch. Everything proceeds on track in Baikonur for the liftoff of the 65th Progress resupply vehicle to the International Space Station. Inside 4 minutes to launch, coming up on the point at which fuel lines and other elements of the propulsion system on the Soyuz booster are being purged with nitrogen to fireproof them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer that are bleeding off through the normal fueling process. Once again, liftoff time scheduled at 8:51 and 52 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:51, 52 seconds p.m. Baikonur time. All of the onboard measurement systems for the Soyuz booster have now been activated. The drainage process has now begun. The valves through which evaporated oxygen escapes from the fuel tanks into the atmosphere are closed, and the rocket is beginning to drain back into the tanks. At the same time, the valves providing liquid oxygen to replenish that is boiling off as planned. 2 minutes, 40 seconds until launch. The booster tank pressurization is underway. The fuel and oxidizer tanks being pressurized to optimize fuel flow and to provide structural rigidity to the launch vehicle as it stands on its own on the launch pad. 2 minutes from launch. 90 seconds until launch. Inside 1 minute until launch, everything proceeding on track. A short time from now, we'll see the first of those two umbilical structures buttressed up against the Soyuz rocket retracting. The Soyuz is now on internal power, as is the Progress. There goes the first umbilical. The ground propellant feed has now been terminated. Everything is on track. The auto sequence has been initiated. Standing by for the initiation of the engine start. The second umbilical has been retracted. We have main engine start. Engines coming up to turbo speed. All engines at flight speed. And liftoff. We have liftoff of the 65th Progress resupply vehicle, beginning a 2-day journey to the International Space Station. All engines performing nominally. A good roll, pitch, and yaw program reported from the blockhouse at Baikonur. Good control of the vehicle. Good vehicle stabilization reported. The Soyuz delivering 102 tons of thrust from its first stage engine, disappearing into a cloud bank. All vehicle parameters reported performing perfectly. 1 minute 15 seconds into the flight. Everything continues to perform nominally on the first stage performance of the Soyuz booster, with the Progress 65 cargo craft encased in the upper stage of the Soyuz. We're coming up on solid booster separation and first stage shutdown. And we have confirmation of the separation of the first stage of the Soyuz booster right on time. The Soyuz booster and the Progress resupply vehicle, 30 miles in altitude, 73 miles downrange from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, traveling at 4,000 miles an hour. 2 minutes, 40 seconds into the flight. The second stage engine up and running in good shape. All parameters reported to be functioning normally. And we've had shroud jettison, so the Progress now exposed as it continues its trek uphill to its preliminary orbit. We're at the 3-minute mark into the flight. Good vehicle stabilization reported. The Soyuz booster tracking in perfect shape. All control system parameters are normal, reported by the blockhouse in Baikonur. And the second stage engine continues to fire in nominal fashion. Good control of the vehicle with 5 minutes of powered flight remaining. The second stage engine providing 96 tons of thrust as it continues to move right down the pike towards its preliminary orbit and spacecraft separation of the Progress resupply vehicle. Four and a half minutes into the flight. We're coming up on second stage engine shutdown and second stage separation. We've had second stage shutdown and separation, aft skirt separation, and the third stage is up and running. Third stage engine up and running. The third stage providing about 30 tons of thrust to complete the Progress's climb to orbit will fire for just under 4 minutes to place the Progress into its preliminary orbit. Coming up on the 5.5 minute mark into the flight, everything proceeding on track. The third stage engine continues to fire as advertised. No issues reported. Launch occurred on time at 8:51 and 52 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:51 and 52 seconds p.m. at the launch site of the Baikonur Cosmodrome. 6 minutes into the flight, 2 minutes and 46 seconds of powered flight remaining. Coming up on the 7 minute mark into the flight, the third stage engine continues to perform in superb fashion. No issues reported as we head into the final 1 minute and 46 seconds of powered flight. The roll, pitch, and yaw of the Soyuz booster and its associated Progress resupply craft, all reported to be in nominal fashion. Flight controllers of the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov standing by to take over the rest of the flight of the Progress vehicle following third stage shutdown and spacecraft separation. Coming up on the 8.5 minute mark into the flight, Just a few seconds left before third stage shutdown and spacecraft separation. This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at a view of the Russian flight control room at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov outside Moscow. Telemetry was a bit ratty toward the end of the third stage performance of the Soyuz booster, so we're standing by for further confirmation. Once again, telemetry was a bit ratty toward the end of the third stage, near the end of the third stage engine performance. So we are standing by for confirmation from the Russian flight controllers that we indeed had a third stage shutdown and spacecraft separation of the Progress 65 cargo craft.
And as a heads up, we are on board on SSD-8, so hands off SSD-8 for now. Thank you.
Telemetry being received at the Russian Mission Control Center in bits and pieces, indicating that the navigational antennas on the Progress have deployed. We're still standing by for confirmation that the solar arrays deployed. This is Mission Control Houston. The reports coming from the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov indicating that the Progress 65 cargo craft, which launched at 8:51 and 52 seconds a.m. Central Time, that the Progress has been placed in a preliminary orbit. We're still trying to confirm through Russian ballistics exactly what that orbit is. We also have received confirmation that its navigational antennas did deploy, but we are still awaiting confirmation on the outcome of the solar array deployment activities. Apparently the solar arrays, the telemetry being received at least, indicate that they are not stowed, but may not have necessarily deployed fully. So we are continuing to stand by on further updates from the Russian Mission Control Center and the Russian Flight Control Team there on where we stand with the Progress 65 that was launched en route on a 2-day mission to reach the International Space Station with its load of supplies on Saturday. This is Mission Control Houston. We are continuing to stand by for further updates from the Russian Mission Control Center on where we stand with the Progress 65 cargo launched about 20 minutes ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Just to recap what we know at this point, the Soyuz booster down at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan lifted off at 8:51 and 52 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:51 and 52 seconds p.m. at the launch site in Baikonur. The first minutes of the ascent to orbit on the first and second stages of the Soyuz booster were normal, no issues reported. Some indication of ratty or choppy telemetry began during third stage engine performance, with some indication that third stage separation may have occurred earlier than planned. That is not confirmed. We're still standing by for more information from the Russian flight control team in Korolyov. The telemetry received by flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center indicated that the navigational antennas on the Progress did deploy normally, but the telemetry was not clear regarding how the solar array deployment fared. Some indication was that they were not stowed, but not fully deployed. So that's where we stand at the moment as we await further information on the fate of the Progress 65 cargo craft following its launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome this morning. This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at a view from a balcony camera of the Russian flight control room at the Russian Mission Control Center on the outskirts of Moscow as their flight controllers pour over telemetry received from the Progress resupply vehicle that launched at 8:51 and 52 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:51 and 52 seconds p.m. Baikonur time. As we mentioned a moment ago, the first minutes of the flight were normal. No issues reported when third stage performance began. In the final couple of minutes of powered flight, telemetry was reported to be a bit ratty, a bit choppy by the ballistics officers at the Russian Mission Control Center. That was followed by a report of the deployment of the navigational antennas on the Progress, but we have not yet received any firm confirmation on the deployment of the solar arrays of the vehicle and no firm confirmation on exactly when third stage separation may have occurred. This is Mission Control Houston, continuing to receive some information from the flight controllers monitoring the path of the Progress 65 cargo craft from the Russian Mission Control Center, indicating that they are receiving telemetry from the vehicle. But again, we are not sure at this point what that telemetry is yielding. We'll continue to stand by for further reports as they come our way. This is Mission Control Houston. As we have mentioned, still standing by for further information on where we stand with the Progress 65 cargo craft that launched just about a half an hour ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The first minutes of the flight were normal, no issues reported. Some ratty communications then was received during third stage performance of the Soyuz booster. That was followed by several conflicting reports on the fate of the deployment of navigational antennas and solar arrays. Navigational antennas have been confirmed to have been deployed by the Progress vehicle. However, we still have not received any firm confirmation on the fate of the solar arrays on the Progress, nor have we firmly received information regarding the timing of the third stage shutdown of the Soyuz booster and the spacecraft separation. This is Mission Control Houston. You're continuing to look at a view from a balcony camera in the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow. Russian flight controllers are still analyzing telemetry that has been received from the Progress 65 cargo craft, which launched just 40 minutes ago from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. First and second stage performance of the three-stage Soyuz booster rocket was nominal, no issues reported. When third stage performance of the Soyuz booster began, and shortly thereafter, some ratty telemetry was noticed and reported by the Russian ballistics team at the Russian Mission Control Center. There were conflicting reports about the Progress 65's health at that point. One report indicated and has been confirmed that navigational antennas were deployed, but it appears at this point at least that there is no concrete confirmation about the fate of the solar arrays on the 65 Progress vehicle. We just don't know at this point as telemetry is being reviewed by the Russian flight control team in Korolyov as to whether those arrays did deploy or whether they remain stowed. Also, we are awaiting further word on what the state vector is of the Progress 65, its orbit in relation to the Earth. The International Space Station and its 6 crew members are flying over the northwest Pacific Ocean, just off the coast of Japan, in an orbit from northwest to southeast and at altitude of 252 statute miles. This launch was sending the Progress on a 2-day rendezvous to the International Space Station to arrive at the station on Saturday for a docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module. So at this point, we will be awaiting further word from the Russian flight controllers in Korolyov and further confirmation of the fate of the Progress 65 cargo craft that is hauling more than 2.5 tons of food, fuel, and supplies to the station for the Expedition 50 crew. In the meantime, we will sign off for now. Further information about Progress 65 as it is received and confirmed by the Russian Federal Space Agency will be available on the NASA website at www.nasa.gov. We will also post available information as soon as it is received and confirmed on Twitter at NASA. And also other information would be received and confirmed and reported officially by the Russian Federal Space Agency on their website at www.roscosmos.ru. So again, the launch of the Progress 65 cargo craft occurred on time. The first minutes of powered flight were normal, with no issues reported until third stage performance began, at which time telemetry became a bit ratty, and the Progress apparently is in a preliminary orbit. What orbit that is not known at this point, along with the fate of the deployment of its solar arrays, but we will be receiving more information as the day wears on and in the hours ahead. And again, we will pass that information along on the NASA website, on Twitter, and on the Roscosmos.ru website as the Russian Federal Space Agency makes official information available. So in the meantime, we'll wrap up our coverage for now, and we'll stay tuned for further information that we will pass along as it becomes available. For now, this is Mission Control Houston.